بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه كما يحب ربنا ويرضى. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله الناصح الأمين. اللهم صل على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين. ثم أما بعد، ما شاء الله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. Alhamdulillah, we continue going over the tremendous book by the Fadilat al-Shaykh al-Allama Shaykh Salih al-Fawzan Hafidhahullah Ta'ala, the book which is entitled Tanbihat ala Ahkam Takhtassu bil Mu'minat, some rules and regulations, or attention to rules and regulations particular to the believing women. We have reached Al-Fasl al-Khamis. We have reached the fifth section. And that is the section which is dealing with في بيان أحكام تختص بالمرأة في صلاتها, and that is an explanation of rules and regulations that are specific to the woman as relates to her prayer, as relates to her prayer. Shaykh Fawzan Hafidhahullah Ta'ala, he begins this section by saying, حافظي أيتها المسلمة على صلاتك. He says, and preserve, O Muslim woman, preserve your prayer. Preserve your prayer and be diligent in the preservation of your prayer. في أوقاتها, inside of its time. Be diligent in making sure that you're praying your prayer on time. مستوفية لشروطها وأركانها وواجباتها. Preserving and fulfilling its conditions, fulfilling its pillars, and fulfilling its obligatory matters. In order for any Muslim to fulfill the prerequisites, the condition for the prayer, or the pillars of the prayer, or the obligatory matters of the prayer, is that they will have to know what are the conditions for the prayer, what are its prerequisites, what are the pillars of the prayer, and what are its obligatory aspects. They will not be able to fulfill such if they are ignorant as to these aforementioned things. So it is incumbent that we as Muslims, we spend some time really seeking knowledge so that we may be able to implement what we learn, bi'ithnillahi ta'ala. And this is an encouragement to everyone to really focus in on their studies, because there's a lot of information that is out there right now that is available on the fingertips of individuals, and it can become overwhelming. So it is a must that we have focus and that we prioritize in our learning. So bila shakk wa bila raib, without any doubt, the learning of Aqidah, Tawheed, this is foremost. This is incumbent. We have to know how to properly believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing what our minhaj is, minhaj Salafy. This is important. We have to know the proper minhaj so that we may act in accordance to it and live our lives accordingly. And we have to know those important things that are binding and obligatory upon us. So those issues that are related to the salah, we have to make sure we know about them. We have to make sure we know the rules and regulations for the wudu. We have to make sure we know those rules and regulations that are surrounding the prayer from these aforementioned things, from the prerequisites and conditions of the prayer, from the pillars of the prayer, from the obligatory aspects and matters of the prayer. We have to make sure that we are learning these things. And we cannot allow ourselves to get caught up in the hurricane of he said, he said, he said, she said, so on and so forth. We have to make sure that we don't get caught up in the likes of these things and we become thus distracted from that which will really benefit us. We have to make sure that we are not individuals who, when it comes to the basic affairs of our religion, we are ignorant and we don't know about them. When it comes to those things that we are obliged to know, we are ignorant. We don't know about them. So we have to make sure that the likes of these things, take precedence and that we learn them so that we'll be able to implement them. Because the goal is not just to know and to gain knowledge, but the goal is to implement that knowledge so that we implement that which we have learned and that we put into practice that which we have learned. This is of extreme importance and it is vital. So when it comes to the prayer, bila shakku bila raib, the prayer is tremendous. The prayer is the greatest pillar of the deen of al-Islam after the shahadatain, after the shahadatan, after the declaration of faith. Then the prayer is the greatest of the pillars of the deen of al-Islam. So it is incumbent that we put emphasis and we put priority upon learning those aspects and those affairs by way in which it is needed for us to establish our prayers. يقول الله سبحانه وتعالى, Shaykh Fawzan, حفظه الله تعالى, he goes on and he says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, لأمهات المؤمنين, he says to the mothers of the believers, وأقمنا الصلاة وأقمنا الصلاة وأقمنا الصلاة وآتينا الزكاة وأطعنا الله ورسوله, and to establish the prayer. أقمنا الصلاة, establish the prayer. وآتينا الزكاة, and pay the charity, pay the zakat. وأطعنا الله ورسوله, and obey Allah and obey His Messenger. Obey Allah and obey His Messenger. وهذا أمر للمسلمات عموما, and this is a command to all of the Muslim women in general, although specifically the ayah was addressing our mothers. The ayah is addressing our mothers. It is also applicable to every Muslim woman in general. This ayah is applicable to every Muslim woman. Every Muslim woman. So the command, it covers every Muslim woman in every time and in every era to establish the prayer, to pay zakat, and to obey Allah and His Messenger. And to obey Allah and His Messenger. The Shaykh goes on and he says, فَالصَّلَاةِ هِيَ رُكْنُ الثَّانِي مِنْ أَرْكَانِ الْإِسْلَامِ. The Salah, it is the second pillar from the pillars of Islam. وَهِيَ عُمُودِ الْإِسْلَامِ, and it is the support pillar of Islam. Now, for lack of a better term or translation, but it is the support beam of Islam. وَتَرْكُهَا كُفْرٌ, And leaving off the prayer, it is disbelief. يُخْرِجُ مِنَ الْمِلَّةِ. It is a disbelief that will expel a person from the religion. Leaving off of the prayer excuse me. Leaving off of the prayer, it is kufr. It is disbelief that expels one from the religion. So it is vital that we are establishing our prayer, because the abandonment of such will expel a Muslim from the religion of Islam. There's a quick side point here, and it's incumbent for us to know, especially in a time where there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of twisting of the facts and of the text by the likes of the Khawarij so as to suit their evil agenda. And that is that the likes of the narrations would speak about the person not praying being a kafir. This is as relates to the general ruling. This is the general ruling. Now, the general ruling is something. The general ruling is something. And the application of that general ruling upon a specific individual is something totally different. It's something that is totally different. Now, so it's important for us to understand that when we hear the likes of these narrations, which speak about the apostasy of an individual who abandons the prayer, the narrations will speak about the apostasy of those who leave off the salah. That this is speaking about the general rule. It's speaking about the general rule. It is not as such as it will be applied to a specific individual. Now, and the likes of this is like the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that has been collected by Imam Ahmad wa Abu Dawood wa Tirmidhi wa Nisa'i wa Ibn Majah. And that is the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, عهد الذي بيننا وبينهم الصلاة فمن تركها فقد كفر. That the covenant that is between us, so the distinction between us and between them is what is the prayer. And whoever has abandoned it, then verily he has disbelieved. Whoever has abandoned it, then verily he has disbelieved. And likewise the hadith that has come in Sahih Muslim, عن جابر بن عبد الله رضي الله تعالى عنه قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إن بين الرجل وبين الشرك والكفر ترك الصلاة. That verily between a man and between kufr and shirk is the abandonment of the prayer. These ahadith, they speak to the general rule that in generally whoever leaves off the prayer, then na'am, is a kafir. Whoever abandons the prayer, then he is a kafir. This is the general rule. But as relates to the application of this rule upon a specific individual, and this is a whole nother story. This is a whole nother story. Na'am, because we have to make sure that that the proof is established. There has to be an establishment of the proofs and the evidences. Na'am. And the dalil for that is the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَمَن يُشَاقِقِ الرَّسُولَ مِن بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى وَيَتَّبِعْ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, to the end of the ayah. That whoever has contradicted the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whoever has contradicted the Messenger, after clear guidance had been made known to him, and he follows a way other than the way of the believers. Now, the shahid from this ayah is Allah Ta'ala's statement, what translated means, after clear guidance had been made known to him. مِن بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى. After clear guidance had been made known unto him. Now, so the clear guidance being made known unto him, then this is essential that we have the proofs and evidences have to be established against the individual who has fallen into kufr. So as Imam al-Albani used to say, not everyone who falls into kufr, kufr falls upon them. Not everyone who falls into kufr, kufr falls upon them. Because in order for the kufr to fall upon them, then what? The proofs and the evidences have to be established. All of the preventing factors have to be removed. All of the preventing factors have to be removed and the proof have to be established before the ruling upon an individual is that he has left Islam or she has left Islam. And ala kulli hal, the likes of such is in the hands of the ulama, and it's not in the hands of the everyday Muslim. It's not in the hands of the common Muslim, but it is in the hands of the ulama. They are the ones who will make such rulings upon people. So it is not our place to make such rulings upon people, and it's not proper for us to do such. So we have to be careful, we have to beware of this issue of takfir. And we have to be careful, we have to be wary of the issue of a takfir. And we can't be lackadaisical as relates to it. And we can't be of those who have been tricked by the Khawarij into thinking that that the general rule can be established upon a specific individual across the board like that. No. The general rule is something, and the specific ruling upon an individual of takfir is something totally different. Okay? From this, so we have some understanding. Sheikh Salih Abdis al-Sheikh, he mentions specifically about what we're speaking about right now, the abandonment of the prayer. He said is that the ulama, they differ as relates to this. Meaning, the one who leaves off the prayer out of laziness. As relates to the one who leaves off the prayer intentionally and says he's not going to pray, and he obstinately refuses to pray, and he obstinately abandons the prayer, then the ulama have a consensus that this individual, then he is a disbeliever. The ulama have a consensus that such an individual, he's a disbeliever. Now, but what about those who don't pray for reasons shy of this? They don't pray due to laziness. The ulama, they differ. Some of the ulama, they say they are not kuffar. Others from the ulama, they say no, they are kuffar. Sheikh Salih Abdis al-Sheikh, hafidhahullah ta'ala, he says that the individual who doesn't pray, even out of laziness, the individual doesn't pray out of laziness, the strongest opinion as relates to him is that he has fallen into kufr. He has fallen into kufr. He has fallen into disbelief. This is clear from the text and the evidences. This individual, he has fallen into disbelief. Na'am. He says, and it is to be judged and looked upon and looked at like everyone who falls into disbelief. Like every issue of those who fall into disbelief. That they will not become a kafir until the proofs and the evidences are established against them. It is known that they understand the proofs and the evidences that have been established against them. All of the preventative factors have been removed. And after such, they remain consistent upon the abandonment of the prayer. Then at that point, they will become kuffar. Naam, just like what? Fall into anything else. The Shaykh, he brought as an example, he says, for example, making dua and istighatha to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making dua, supplicating, and seeking help in times of peril from other than Allah, then this is kufr, because this is shirk. This will take a person out of the religion, right? This is the general ruling. He said, but is this general ruling applied specifically to those masses amount of Muslims in this day and time of ours right now, who, due to ignorance or due to a false interpretation, they make dua to the awliya who are dead in the graves, and they seek help in times of peril from the awliya who are dead in the graves, but due to ignorance and due to a false interpretation of people telling them that this enters into Tawheed and that it does not contradict Tawheed, due to the ignorance of what Tawheed really is, are we are to say now that all of these Muslims are now kuffar? He said, and of course the answer is no. We don't make takfir on them across the board like this. We know this is not the case. He said, and why this is not such that they are not kuffar? Why? Because we still have preventative factors like ignorance. Preventative factor of ignorance would make it impossible to make takfir upon a person because they're ignorant. They don't know. Likewise, being given a false interpretation and being lied to by the evil ulama, the ulama su, the evil pseudo scholars who have told these individuals that this is in accordance to Tawheed and this does not contradict Tawheed. Due to this false interpretation, then it will be impossible to make the ruling of takfir upon these individuals because they have a false interpretation. They have been told that what they are doing is right. They have been told that what they are doing is right. So it is impossible to make takfir upon them because we have preventative factors that are still there, and there has been no proof established against them so as to show them that what they are doing is actually from those things that will nullify an individual's Islam. So then they're still Muslim, although they have fallen into shirk, they have fallen into kufr, they are Muslim. So likewise, with this issue of those who don't pray, then I know that the individual who doesn't pray, then yes, he's in a state of danger. She's in a state of danger. They have fallen into clear kufr. They have fallen into clear kufr. Na'am. As such that if the preventative factors were removed and the proofs and evidence were established against them and they remain consistent upon what they're doing, they will leave Islam. The Islam will be nullified. They will leave the deen of Islam and no longer be Muslim. Na'am. In any event, it is incumbent and it is a must that we know the likes of these details so that we are not put to trial by the Khawarij when they come and they say, but look, there's a hadith, look, there's an ayah. You have to remember that Ahl al-Bid'ah, they will use a hadith and they will use ayat and bring them outside of their context. They will bring you a portion of the situation and not the whole of the story. So much so that Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, he mentions that what means that when a mubtadi' brings a proof and an evidence, you don't have to look far and wide for another proof and evidence to refute them. He said, no, rather read the same proof that he brings from beginning to end, and you will find therein the refutation upon what he's trying to say. They always bring half the story. They don't bring the whole story. They always twist the meanings and misinterpret what is intended. And the reason being is such as that because in reality there is no proof for bid'ah. There's no proof for bid'ah. So anything that they find, they have to try to fashion it to make it seem like it fits. So they can't bring you everything. They can't bring you the whole story. They only bring you a portion. And this is how the tricks that they play. So don't become confused or don't become mesmerized because they have quoted a hadith or they have quoted an ayah, but know that they have taken it outside of its context. Know that they have twisted its intended meaning. Know that they have only brought you half of it. But if you go and read all of it, you'll find therein the refutation against them. Now, but in any event, we're saying all that to say, so know that yes, a person not praying is dangerous and can lead to their expulsion from the deen of al-Islam. But I don't want you to take that and run with it now and say, oh, but auntie so-and-so is not praying, doesn't pray. You know, uncle so-and-so does not pray. Ammu so-and-so does not pray. So therefore, oh, they're kafir. No. Fear Allah. No. Because the details are as we had just mentioned. Wallahu a'la wa a'lam wa billahi tawfiq. Na'am. طيب. The Shaykh Hafidhahullah Ta'ala, he goes on and he mentions, he says, فَلَا دِينَ وَلَا إِسْلَامٍ لِمَنْ لَا صَلَاةَ لَهُ مِنَ الرِّجَالِ وَالنِّسَاءِ. So there is no religion, there's no deen, there's no Islam for the one who doesn't have any prayer. There is no Islam for the one who doesn't have any prayer. Be he man or be he woman, be it a man or be it a woman. The one who does not pray, then they have no claim to the deen of al-Islam. But again, upon what? Upon the details of what was aforementioned. Upon the details of what was aforementioned. Because not praying is clear kufr. But it has to be establishment of the proof, removing of those preventative factors. And then a person has to remain consistent upon what they have fallen into, after knowledge, after knowing, and so on and so forth. Then at that point, then the kufr will fall upon them. Then the kufr will fall upon them. The Shaykh Hafidhahullah Ta'ala, he says, وَتَخِيرُ الصَّلَاةِ عَنْ وَقْتِهَا مِنْ غَيْرِ عُذْرٍ شَرْعِيٍّ إِضَاعَةٌ لَهَا. Also, what enters into leaving off the prayer and losing the prayer, right, is to delay the prayer beyond its time. To delay the prayer beyond its time without any legislated excuse. To delay the prayer beyond its time without any legislated excuse. This also constitutes the leaving off of the prayer and the abandonment of the prayer. قال الله تعالى, Allah Ta'ala, He says, وَخَلَفَ مِن بَعْدِهِمْ فَخَلَفَ مِن بَعْدِهِمْ خَلْفٌ أَضَاعُوا الصَّلَاةَ, that there will come after them a people who will leave off the prayer. There will come a generation after them. فَخَلَفَ مِن بَعْدِهِمْ خَلْفٌ, there will come after them a generation, will come after them a people. أَضَاعُوا الصَّلَاةَ, they will abandon the prayer. وَاتَّبَعُوا الشَّهَوَاتِ, and they will follow their desires. فَسَوْفَ يَلْقَوْنَ غَيًّا, and thus they will enter into غَيًّا. And surely we're going to see what is meant by غَيًّا. Allah Ta'ala in the next ayah, He says, إِلَّا مَنْ تَابَ, except for the one who has repented. Except for the one who has repented. And this can be found, these two verses can be found in Surah Maryam, and it's verse 59 and verse 60. Can be found in Surah Maryam, and it's verse 59 and it's verse 60. طيب. وقد ذكر الحافظ ابن كثير في تفسيره عن جمع من أئمة المفسرين أن المعنى أضاع الصلاة إضاع مواقيتها بأن تصلي أو بأن تصلى بعدما يخرج وقتها. Imam al-Kathir, he mentions that in his tafsir, that a group of the imams of the people of tafsir, the scholars of tafsir, they have mentioned that the meaning of the abandonment of the prayer, meaning from this ayah, it means that they have abandoned, or the losing of the prayer is that they have lost the time. They have lost the time of the prayer, meaning that tusalla, they have prayed it after its time had gone out. They have prayed the prayer after its time, it had elapsed. Now, so also what enters into the leaving of the prayer, the abandonment of the prayer, the loss of the prayer is what? Is to pray the prayer after its time has gone out without any legislative excuse. Without any legislative excuse, but to be neglectful on the prayers until a person prays their prayers, and then until the time it has elapsed, it has gone out. Now, this is what the Mufassirun, they mention, the scholars of tafsir, what they mention is meant here in this ayah by أضاعوا الصلاة. نعم. طيب. Allah Ta'ala, He says about this khalfun, He says about this generation, about these people, that they leave off the prayer, they have lost the prayer, and they follow their desires. So they will be thrown into فَسَوْفَ يَلْقَوْنَ غَيًّا, so they will be tossed into, they will be thrown into غَيًّا. وَفَسَّرَ الْغَيَّ الَّذِي يَلْقُونَهُ بِأَنَّهُ الْخِسَارَ. نعم. That al-ghayya, it has been explained that what is meant by it is a great loss. نعم. A great loss. وَفُسِّرَ, and it also has been explained that it is بِأَنَّهُ وَادٍ فِي جَهَنَّمْ, that it is a valley in the hellfire. It has also been explained that it is a valley inside of the hellfire. So for those who have delayed their prayer, meaning they become habitual and delaying their prayer beyond its time without a legislative excuse, without a legislative excuse, then they are under a tremendous threat. They are under a tremendous threat. So we find that this is such, and this is the case, then we have to make tawbah unto Allah Azza wa Jal, because Allah Azza wa Jal, He tells us that for them is a tremendous loss. For them is this pit or this valley inside of the hellfire. Allah Ta'ala, He says, إِلَّا مَنْ تَابَ, except for the one who repents. Except for the one who repents. So the salah is tremendously important. The salah is vital to our success in this world and in the next. The salah is vital to our success in this world and the next. So it should be known that there are some rules and regulations as relates to the salah that are particular to the Muslim women. there are some rules and regulations in the salah that are particular to the Muslim women, and bithnillahi ta'ala, the Shaykh he goes over a number of them. Bithnillahi ta'ala, today we will take some of them. We will take some of them. We'll take what we can take from them, and we'll finish bithnillahi ta'ala inside of the next class with what we missed. حسنا. طيب. The Shaykh he mentions, he says, وَلِلْمَرْأَةِ أَحْكَامٌ فِي الصَّلَاةِ تَخْتَصُّ بِهَا عَنِ الرِّجَالِ, that there are rules and regulations that are applicable in particular to the woman inside of the prayer, that are special for her, that are not applicable to the men. They're not applicable to the men. وَإِيضَاحُهَا كَمَا يَلِي, and we will explain them in that which will follow. Firstly, the first point that the Shaykh he mentions is that لَيْسَ عَلَى الْمَرْأَةِ أَذَانٌ وَلَا إِقَامَةٌ, that it is not binding upon the woman to call the adhan, nor to call the iqama. It is not binding upon the woman to call the adhan, nor to call the iqama. لأن الأذان شرع له في رفع الصوت, because for the adhan it is legislated that the voice is raised. The adhan is legislated that the voice is raised. نعم. والمرأة لا يجوز لها رفع صوتها, and the woman is not permissible for her to raise her voice. نعم. To raise her voice. رفع صوتها, to raise her voice, the raising of her voice. ولا يصحان منها, and they are not correct, and they are not valid if she were to do either of these two. If she were to do either of these two, it is not valid. وقال إمام ابن قدامة في المغني, Imam ibn Qudama, he says in al-Mughni, ولا نعلم فيه خلافا, he says, and I don't know, or he says, and we don't know of any difference of opinion as relates to this. He mentions this, and he says, we don't know of any difference of opinion as relates to this particular affair of the women calling the adhan, so on and so forth. This is the first point that the Shaykh he mentions as one of the difference between the salat from his rules and regulations as relates to the men and women. This is one of the differences between the men and the women. This is one of the things that is particular to the women. Secondly, the Shaykh he mentions, كل المرأة عورة في الصلاة إلا وجهها وكفيها وقدميها خلاف. Now, he says is that all of the women is awra. All of the women, must be covered inside of the prayer. When she prays, the whole of her body must be covered in the prayer, except for her face and except for her hands. And I want you to write this down inside of your notes. As far as the face and the hands of the women, the scholars agree about these two body parts. The face and the hands, the scholars agree about these two body parts, that they are the exceptions, that they don't have to be covered when a woman prays. So her hands can be exposed and her face can be exposed when she prays. Okay? And the scholars, they agree on these two. The Shaykh he mentions, he says, and also her feet can be shown. And also her feet can be showed, right? And exposed while she prays. The Shaykh he says, but this one is what? Khilafun. He said, but in this one, as far as the feet, then there is a difference of opinion. As far as the feet, there's a difference of opinion. Okay? But getting back to the face, particularly, the Shaykh he says, وَذَلِكَ كُلُّ, the face and the hands, and that which can be seen from the woman while she prays, وَذَلِكَ كُلُّ حَيْثُ لَا يُرَاهَا رَجُلٌ غَيْرُ مَحْرِمْ لَهَا. But this is only in the instance where she is praying in a place where no man who is not from her maharim, no man who is not mahram, will be able to see her. Okay? So she can expose these parts that she's allowed to expose when she prays, only if it is not possible that a man who was not her mahram can see her. If a foreign man can see her, then even in those instances she has to cover. As the Shaykh goes on, he says, فَإِنْ كَانَ يَرَاهَا رَجُلٌ غَيْرُ مَحْرِمٍ لَهَا وَجَبَ عَلَيْهَا سَتْرُهَا كَمَا يَجِبُ عَلَيْهَا سَتْرُهَا خَارِجُ الصَّلَاةِ عَنِ الرِّجَالِ. He said, but if a man who is not from her mahram, he's not a family member, he's not from her maharim, if he is able to see her, then it is binding, it is obligatory that she covers up these body parts, just as she has to cover up these body parts from being seen by the men outside the prayer. Just as she has to cover up these body parts from being seen by the men outside of the prayer. فلا بد في صلاتها من تغطية رأسها ورقبتها من تغطية باقي بدنها حتى ظهر قدميها. He says, so thus it is incumbent that during her prayer she has to cover her head, and she has to cover she has to cover her neck, and she has to cover her neck, and the rest of her body, even until she has to cover the top of her feet. She has to cover the top of her feet. So this is what is meant by ظهور قدميها, what is apparent from her feet, because of course the soles of her feet, she stands upon them, so you can't see them, right? So the top of the feet has to be covered. The top of the feet has to be covered. And the ulama, as we'll see from here, and we'll see from the proofs and the evidences the Shaykh he mentions, the ulama, they mention extracting from those proofs and evidences. So this means that her garment, it has to cover the top of her feet. It does not necessarily mean that she has to have on socks. Not necessarily mean she have to have on socks. But she can be barefoot, right? But whatever she's wearing has to adequately cover her feet, right? So she can be barefoot, but whatever she's wearing has to adequately cover her feet. But before doing that, let's look at the head. قال صلى الله عليه وسلم, the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, he said, لا يقبل الله صلاة حائض يعني من بلغت الحيض إلا بخمار. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, he said that Allah does not accept the prayer of the woman who menstruates, meaning the one who has reached the age of menstruation. Now, the one who has reached the age of menstruation. So this will be applicable to all those who have reached the age of menses, regardless of whether or not they're still currently getting a menses. So this also is applicable to women who are women who are in menopause and beyond, or post-menopause. This is also applicable to them. So anyone who has reached the age that they got their menses, then their salah is not accepted unless they pray with a khimar. Naam. And this hadith has been narrated from our mother Aisha. So I want you to write that down. This hadith has been narrated by our mother Aisha, wherein the Prophet ﷺ, he said that Allah does not accept the prayer of a woman who has reached the age of menses, or the menstruating woman, unless she has a khimar. Naam, unless she has a khimar. This hadith has been graded as sahih by Imam al-Albani, and has been collected by Abu Dawood, wa Tirmidhi, wa Nisa'i, wa Ibn Majah, and also by Imam Ahmad, if I remember correctly. Naam. طيب. والخمار ما يغطى الرأس والعنق. And the khimar is what adequately covers the head and the neck and all of that, top area. Okay, that's the khimar, which is well known to us. Okay, so this here is a proof and an evidence that the head of the woman has to be covered in the salah. This is a proof and evidence that the woman's head has to be covered in the salah. So she can't pray with her hair exposed or her neck showing, right? And the like. وعن سلمة, and on the authority of Salima رضي الله تعالى عنها أنها سألت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, that she asked the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, أتصلي المرأة في درع وخمار بغير إزار? She says, can a woman pray with a dara? And the women, you know better than me, dara, right? It's like a long dress, right? It's like a long dress, okay? Long dress, wide, very baggy style of dress, This is dara. So she said, can a woman pray in a dara and in a khimar without an izar? So she has just on a long dress, but she has no izar. Remember, izar, this is the izar, this is the cloth or the article of clothing that is worn, and it comes from the hips and it goes down. It comes from the hips down. Whereas the dara is that which it generally comes from the shoulders down. It comes from the shoulders down. Okay? So we'll cover the arms and the shoulders and the legs, and the stomach and the torso, right? This is the dara, and it goes down. So she's asking, could a woman pray with a dara and a khimar, but no izar? She does not have on that third element of clothing, no izar. Can she pray like that? The Prophet ﷺ, he stipulated. He said, إِذَا كَانَتْ الدِّرْعُ, he says, if this dir' سَابِغًا يُغَطِّي ظُهُورَ قَدَمَيْهَا, he says, only if the dir', okay, remember, she has on a dir' and she has on a khimar. Only if the dir' is adequate and long enough that it goes down to where it covers her feet. It goes down, it covers the tops of her feet, meaning it covers her feet. It's long enough, it straddles the floor, it covers the feet. So she's standing there, you can't even see her feet. She does not have on socks. She doesn't have on anything that wraps her foot. But the dress is long enough that it covers the foot, it covers it. The Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned, he said, yes, she could, without an izar, if her dir', it covers her feet. If it doesn't cover her feet because it's short, right? Then in that case, then what? Then she has to have on an izar so that the top of her feet are covered. So for whatever reason, the dir' is short and it doesn't cover down to the top of the feet. Okay, you can leave it on. You can wear it, but you have to add to it an izar, something that will go from your waist and cover down to the top of your feet. Now this hadith here has been collected by Abu Dawood and others. And this hadith is authentic. It's sahih. But it's sahih reaching back to Salama radiyallahu ta'ala. So I want you to write this down. It's sahih reaching back to Salama. However, there is no authentic chain that reaches back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself. So all of those chains that reach back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then these chains are not authentic. They're not authentic. They're da'if. Right? So all of the asanid that reach back to the Prophet ﷺ of this particular narration, then they are all da'ifa. However, that chain that reaches back to Salama, then it is sahih. It is authentic. So what is the takeaway? The takeaway is that what? Is that this narration is the statement of who? Of Salama. Is not the statement of the Prophet ﷺ. Because going back to the Prophet ﷺ, we can't confirm that. It's da'if. Reaching back to the Prophet ﷺ. So our takeaway is not the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, but rather this is what? This is the statement of Salama, radiyallahu ta'ala anha, and it's authentically reported upon her. Now, so the ruling is confirmed. The ruling is confirmed. Why? Because no one from the Sahaba contradicted her in this. Right? Because we don't know of anyone of the Sahaba contradicting her in this. You understand? So therefore, from this point, it is understood that what the ruling is thabit. The ruling is confirmed. The ruling is confirmed. That makes sense? It makes sense? So we use this as what? As a proof. This is a proof. This is a proof. So therefore, Shaykh Fawzani says, دل الحديثان على أنه لا بد في صلاتها من تغطية رأسها. He says, so we see here that in the salah, it is a must, and it is confirmed that she has to cover her head. She has to cover her head. Her head has to be covered inside of the salah. Right? And that, we get that from where? From the hadith of, Aisha. And that is that the head and the neck have to be covered. Right? That is that the head and the neck have to be covered. Now, and that, in fact, that is the proper translation of the aforementioned sentence. فَلَا بُدَّ فِي صَلَاتِهَا مِنْ تَغْطِيَةِ رَأْسِهَا وَرَقَّبَتِهَا. نعم, وَرَقَّبَتِهَا. That she has to cover inside of the prayer her head and her neck. She has to cover inside of the prayer her head and her neck. Now, wait. So, her head and her neck has to be covered, and the proof of that is in the hadith of Aisha. كما أفاد حديث عائشة. كما أفاده حديث عائشة. وتغطية البقية بدنها حتى ظهور قدميها كما أفاده حديث سلمة. And as far as the rest of her body being covered, even the top of her feet having to be covered, then we understand that, and we benefited from that from the hadith of Salama. From the hadith of Salama. نعم. ويباح كشف وجهها حيث لا يراها أجنبي لإجماع أهل العلم على ذلك. And it is permissible for her to show her face and for her face to be exposed when she prays. And this is a consensus amongst the people of knowledge that her face can be seen when she prays, and she doesn't have to cover it if no foreign man can see her. If no foreign man has the ability to see her, then she has to uncover her face. She has to uncover her face. Okay? But if there's a situation where it's possible that a man can see her, then in that case she's not allowed to uncover her face, but her face must be covered. So for the sisters who go to the masjid, and inside of those masajid, there's a separate place and area for the women that is totally screened off and segregated from the men, then the sisters in that area, they should remove their niqab when they pray. They should remove their niqab when they pray. Naam. And it is not proper for them to keep the niqab down. It is not proper for them to keep the niqab down when they pray. Naam. It is important. And the reason being is because we have some sisters who are quite weird in their thinking, and they remain totally covered even amongst the women. They don't even let the women see their face. They remain totally covered even amongst the women, inside of an area where they can't even be seen. And they stay totally covered. And then when it comes time to pray, they stay totally covered amongst the women. This is not proper. This is weird behavior. Really. This is weird behavior. If they're in an area where they cannot be seen, for whatever reason, if she's acting upon a weird manner, and she keeps her niqab down for the whole of the time, when it comes time to pray, you have to lift it up. You should lift it up. Okay? Unless there's a situation, as mentioned, that you can be seen by men, whereas in such a case, then you're not allowed to let the face be seen. وقال شيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية في مجموع الفتاوى فإن المرأة لو صلت وحدها كان مأمورة بالخمار, is that if a woman were to pray by herself, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, he mentions that if a woman were to pray by herself and she was alone, she is still commanded to wear the khimar. She is still commanded to wear the khimar. وفي غير الصلاة, and outside the prayer, if she's alone by herself, she's at home, right? يجوز لها كشف رأسها أو كشف رأسها في بيتها. Then it is permissible for her to expose her hair in other, she's allowed to uncover her hair in her house. So she's in her house, she's allowed to uncover her hair. She doesn't have to wear a khimar in her house. Okay? It's okay for her. But when she prays, she has to wear a khimar. Because, as the Shaykh is going to explain, as Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah is going to explain, the issue of her wearing a khimar inside the prayer is not connected to whether or not she could be seen. The issue of her wearing a khimar and covering her body inside the prayer is not connected to the issue on whether or not she could be seen. It's not. Because when it comes time for the salah, she has to wear khimar and she has to cover her body. Whether she's alone, no one else from the human being can see her. She's by herself. You understand? She still has to wear khimar and she still has to wear adequate clothing that covers all of her body, including the top of her feet. So the issue is not about whether or not you could be seen or not. You understand? And he brings a very good point for this, and a very good analogy. He says, فَأَخْذُ الزِّينَ فِي الصَّلَاةِ حَقٌّ لِلَّهِ. He said, taking your clothes, wearing clothes when you pray, this is Allah's right. That you pray unto Him while you're clothed. You have clothes on. He said, فَلَيْسَ لِأَحَدٍ أَن يَطُوفَ بِالْبَيْتِ. He brings an analogy. He said, it's not permissible for anyone to make tawaf around the Kaaba. No one can make tawaf around the Kaaba عُرْيَانًا, naked. وَلَوْ كَانَ وَحْدَهُ بِاللَّيْلِ. Even though he was by himself in the haram, in the dead of the night, no one else was there. It is the nighttime. And that was lights, but they say all the lights were off. There are no lights on, no lanterns, nothing. Pitch black. Pitch black. Okay? He's by himself in the haram. Pitch black. Nighttime. Dead of night. It's not permissible for him to make tawaf around the Kaaba and he's naked. It's not permissible. He has to be clothed. Thus we understand from this, right? That what? Likewise, لا يصلي عريانا. Nor are they allowed to be naked when they pray. وَلَوْ كَانَ وَحْدَهُ. Even if he's by himself, or even if she's by herself, she's not allowed to pray naked. He's not allowed to pray naked. Now, if they have the ability to put on clothes, they have to clothe them. They have to clothe themselves. They have to clothe themselves. Now, wait. إلى أن قال, until Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, he said, فليس العورة في الصلاة. He says, فليس العورة في الصلاة مربطة بعورة النظر ولا طردا ولا عكسا. انتهى. He says that, so the issue of the awrah, meaning that which has to be covered in salah, is not connected to whether or not the awrah could be seen. Naam, is not connected to whether or not the awrah, it could be seen whatsoever, in any case. In other words, this expression, la taradan wa la aksan, meaning from all sides, from every angle, no matter how you look at it. We have a saying in English, right? Where we say what? No matter how you slice it. Huh? No matter how you slice it. This saying is from the Northeast. I don't know if it's generally all over, but whatever. No matter how you slice it, no matter, how you come at it, Yeah, that's not it. So it's not about if I can't be seen, then I can just pray like whatever. No, it's not nothing to do with that. You have to be covered when you pray. No matter how you slice it, you have to be covered when you pray. No matter how you slice it, you have to be covered when you pray. And what has to be covered has to be covered. Even if you're by yourself and no one else is around, you still have to, cover when you pray. طيب وقال في المغني, and in Salaam al-Mughni, Imam al-Qudama, he says, وَأَمَّا سَائِرُ الْبَدَنِ الْمَرْأَةِ الْحُرَّةِ فَيَجِبُ سَتْرُهُ فِي الصَّلَاةِ. He said, as far as the general masses of the body of the woman in the prayer, of the free woman when she prays, and it all has to be covered inside of the salah. وَإِنْ كَشَفَ مِنْهُ. This is a very important point too, because all the women, she has to be covered her when she prays, right? But let's say, for example, her clothes were a little unjusted, and they shifted, right, when she was praying. So maybe a little bit of her shoulder came out, or like the back of her, her neck. Okay? And you women, you understand this, depending upon how some women they cover and how they may wrap, the khimar or what have you. And maybe it may shift a little bit, and then a little bit of the back around the shoulder area in the back there, it comes out. You can see a little bit, right? All of the women have to be covered when they pray. But if unintentionally something were to be exposed, if unintentionally something were to be exposed, minhu, her prayer, لم تصح صلاتها إلا أن يكون يسيرا. So if something were to be exposed unintentionally of the prayer, her prayer generally, it will not be accepted unless it was something that was small. So if, like the case we mentioned, a little bit of the back of her shoulder come out, whatever, unintentionally, then that won't affect her prayer. That won't affect her prayer. Her prayer will still be sound. Okay? But if a large portion of her body were to come out, right? A gusty wind will come by. I don't know. This is an extreme case scenario, but I can't think of any other example by way in which something like this can take place. But extreme case scenario, as improbable as it may be, but if she was praying and a strong gust of wind came by and it blew her khimar off, for example, then at that point, yes, her salat would be nullified. She would have to cover up and pray again. Okay? But if something small came out while she was praying, something small, like in the example that was mentioned, a little bit of the back of her neck, it shifted or it came out a little bit, whatever, a little bit came out, then that will not affect her prayer. That will not affect her prayer. And this was the statement of Imam Malik and the statement of Imam Awza'i, and it also was the statement of Imam Ash-Shafi'i, rahimahumullahu ta'ala. Naam. And then the Shaykh Hafidhullah ta'ala, he gets into the third point. Naam. But Bismillahi ta'ala, we will save that point until the next class. فنكتفي بهذا القدر وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وجزاكم الله خيرا.